Hey, what's up, blue collar business owner? Welcome back to the Blue Collar Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Maskill, where we focus on helping guide you to have a prosperous blue collar business. Today, we have with us Jack Tompkins, Jack, aka Pineapple Jack, the owner of Pineapple Consulting Firm, a fractional analyst company that helps small businesses be data driven the easy way. So that's probably the shortest intro in the history of the show. I appreciate someone that gets straight to the point. He's my kind of guy. He loves data, loves numbers. That is Jack Tompkins. Welcome, Jack. Thank you so much for being here. What's going on today?
Paul, what is up, my friend? I'm happy to be back, be talking again, and things are going well. How about for you?
Yeah, things are going well here. Excited to have you on. I love diving in with another data-driven nerd because at the end of the day, when we can make decisions based on numbers instead of emotions, it makes life as a business owner a lot easier. So, for those of the listeners out there that don't know who Pineapple Jack is, give everybody kind of insight into how your journey started and how you created Pineapple Consulting Firm.
Yeah, so it started obviously with the love of pineapples, clearly, but I was an analyst in the corporate world for a while, and like probably a lot of us, didn't really love corporate. Really liked the work, didn't like corporate environment though. So I figured, hey, small businesses probably need this whole analytics thing too. Let's see if they do. And 4.5 years later, here we are, and we're going strong. And it turns out that there's a lot of need for a lot of different analytics and dashboards and all that fun data nerdy stuff in the small business world.
Awesome. Well, that's what we're going to dive into today, kind of simplifying data and financials and dashboards and KPIs and all those things, because every business owner needs it. But I think now, 2024, with all the things out there, it's almost like there's too much, and we need someone like Jack to tell us exactly what we need. So, when it comes to being a data-driven business, we hear that all the time now. What does that actually mean for you and the clients you work with?
Yeah, so it's to your point, there's so much noise out there, and a lot of it is honestly just kind of noise. Like it's yes, be data driven, be all these things. You don't need this massive data warehouse and six different AI tools and stuff like that too. If you have it, great. I hope it's helping you, and there's a lot of good things that can come from that. But most small businesses, most blue collar businesses, we're talking like use your QuickBooks, use Service Titan, use House Call Pro, like whatever you got for financials and your CRM, that's your data source. And then let's just view it in a digestible way so you can actually make decisions from that data. It's kind of that simple. I mean, there's a whole bunch of nooks and crannies to fall into, but that is the overall goal.
Yeah, and you mentioned AI. It's funny, like now everything is AI driven and AI backed and AI powered. And it's like that bright, shiny object. Like, do you see how cool this thing is? And then it's like, well, how does that actually help our business? And well, it doesn't really help our business right now. Now, there's plenty of AI tools that can and do and will, but there's plenty of them that we just like to have, but it really doesn't move our business forward or get it closer to our goals. So, how do we know what to focus on? So you mentioned some of the big ones, the house call pros, the jobbers, the service titans. Obviously, I recommend being a CFO, everybody use one of those plus plugging in into QuickBooks, like you mentioned. But how do we know what to focus on once we have that? So we've got these things aggregating all this different type of data. How do we know what to actually focus on?
Yeah. So this is where a lot of people get stuck, right? Because even if you get past the hurdle of, okay, AI, great, I'm going to use it where it helps for me, great. Now I've got all these systems talking to each other somehow, and it's everything's linked up. What do I actually do with this, right? So it's a great question. It's a great starting point too. What I always tell people is, what's that one metric? If you've got a meeting with your team, with your board of directors, like whoever you're meeting with, your investors, whoever it is, and you have 5 minutes to completely digest what's happening in your business, what is that one metric, maybe two metrics, where you can say, okay, this means that the business is healthy, right? So is that new leads? Because new leads, you know that 20% comes in and then they become clients, and then clients are average $5,000 a job or whatever it is. What is that one thing that you can kind of set the tone with and say, if this metric is good, we're at least heading in the right direction? And then everything kind of flows from there too. So taking again all that noise, all these different systems, boiling it down to just one thing, and then doing a little couple of spokes off of that, you'll get a pretty good picture pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I love that concept because business owners have 1,000 different things they could do, 1,000 different things pulling them in 100 different directions. They really don't know what to focus on, and we as business owners don't always know what to focus on. But if we can have that one metric, and then like you said, what's feeding that metric? So like for me, whenever I run a home service company, it's what is our revenue per opportunity? So we know every house we go into, it's going to be worth X amount of dollars because we know our average ticket, we know our closing rate. And then maybe the other spoke of that is call booking rate. So now we know these four things pretty quickly: call booking rate, average ticket or average opportunity, average ticket, close rate, whatever it might be. But what, like you said, what is that one metric is so important because there are thousands of metrics out there. So when it comes to data collection, a lot of times QuickBooks or these CRMs, they don't really make it that easy to give us that data. So what do you do at Pineapple Consulting? What do you recommend our listeners do to actually like extract that data and put it in a format that, hey, this is what we need? Because QuickBooks definitely doesn't do it. It'll have different things here and there. ServiceTitan will give you a dashboard. House Call Pro will give you a dashboard. Jobber will give you a dashboard, but they might not be set up ideally for our business. So what can we do to collect this data and actually make it digestible in the blue collar world?
Yeah, it's so common. Every software out there, blue collar or not, it has that basic dashboard where it's like, okay, this is kind of close to what we're looking at ish, but you need that custom thing, right? So, what I always recommend is all these different tools. They have pretty easy ways to export data into somewhere, and that can be something like a Google Sheets. You can kind of keep it simple. And there should be some automation capabilities. Some of the classic tools out there are Zapier is a very common one. Coupler is another really common one as well. Two different purposes for those two that we can dive into as well. But get that data into a place where you can do a little bit of manipulation. If you are comfortable and want to be tech savvy and build out a dashboard, absolutely go for it. There's plenty of trainings out there and free YouTube videos. We have plenty of free YouTube videos on how to do it too. So if you want to do that, great. But as long as you make something that is easy to update, easy to understand, and easy to help guide you in the right direction, that's always what we recommend, even if it has to be something like a CSV download too. Keep that process easy to update, make it something so that you can quickly understand what the data is telling you, and then use it for strategy from there.
Yeah, and I will attest that because if you go to Pineapple Consulting's YouTube page, if you want to DIY it, they've got every single video you need to build the dashboard. Because I think the difference between what you want to build and what your CRM and QuickBooks does is it'll give you a little bit more historical data. So for those of you that use ServiceTitan, it'll show you historical revenue, but it's not going to show you very easily what's our historical close rate. What did we do 2 months ago? What's our average ticket from 2 months ago? It's more or less, this is just your revenue, and people get excited because they see it going up, but it doesn't really bring you anything else. So when you can pull some data from your CRM plus your QuickBooks, then you can start to track other things that what is driving cash flow. That's at the end of the day, that's our goal, is to have a business that produces consistent positive cash flow where we know what's going to impact that. The average ticket's going to impact that. The cost of goods sold is going to impact our gross profit. And then what do we spend on marketing and what type of return do we get on that marketing? So there are a lot of different things out there to track. The cool thing is in today's day and age, if you're using a CRM and you're using QuickBooks and it's at least set up, it's probably capturing that data. It might just not be in a format yet that you can use. So you had mentioned Zapier. Let's dive into what Zapier is. People have probably heard of it. Some people probably haven't. But how can Zapier make your life easier when it comes to data collection?
Yeah, so I'll give you both versions too. So Zapier and Coupler, two different forms of that. So Zapier is basically, it says when something happens in, let's say, ServiceTitan, do something else. So that could be create an invoice. It could be create a row in Excel spreadsheet. It could be just add some data, right? So it's basically just an if-then tool. Once one thing happens, something else is automatically triggered to happen too. So a lot of people use this for just automated flows of, in the full scope, we get a conversion in our CRM. It automatically then sends a contract. Once the contract is signed, then it sets out an invoice in QuickBooks. Once the invoice is paid, then it creates a row in Google Sheets. So you can add it to your master database in Google Sheets, right? You don't have to get that fancy, but it is just that if A happens, then make B happen. On the other side of the available third-party, relatively affordable options, Coupler, and I highlight both of these because we use them a lot, but the two of the more well-known ones as well. So Coupler takes things at a report level. So think of, instead of an invoice in QuickBooks, think of like the full profit and loss statement. So Coupler will take that full statement, dump it into the same Google Sheets location, and you can get all the details at once. And once a new invoice comes in, you can have it refresh automatically, kind of thing. You can refresh it daily, weekly, monthly, whatever you need. So the difference between a task level thing with Zapier, if A, then B, or give me everything and keep it refreshed in Coupler, that's what we've got out there for a lot of the different third-party integrations that have those pre-built APIs and pre-built automations.
Awesome. So let's kind of take the next step. Say we're using one or both these tools and we're exporting data into Google Sheets. Most of the people listening to the show probably hate numbers, which is why they're in the trade that they picked, and they didn't pick numbers like you and I did. But say they're starting to get this data in Google Sheets, whatever data it might be, closing rate, profit and loss statement, invoices, average ticket, whatever it is. They're bringing this into Google Sheets. If someone wanted to like just start taking that data and building something where they can understand what's going on in their business, we're going to call it a dashboard. What's kind of the next step to go from, hey, I'm bringing all this data in because I like bright shiny objects and I'm using Zapier and I'm using Coupler, but now I actually want to take this data and make it meaningful so I can take action. What is kind of the next step there?
Yeah, so there's a few different options there. One, if you want to jump straight to a dashboard, Looker Studio, highly recommend it. Free, links with Google Sheets, very easy. That's where you get the full dashboard software. You don't want to go all the way there to completely understand. That's why we have a job and a business and all that good stuff. So if you want to stay in something like Google Sheets, you've probably heard of the term pivot table from some Excel class in high school or college or whatever. Pivot table is a great way to start, and you can somewhat easily identify things over a period of time, so you can get some trends, see some revenue in there, conversions, whatever you want to see. And then from that pivot table, it's relatively straightforward to create some graphs from that too. And I say that not just to put a bright shiny object on the thing, on the dashboard that we're making, but graphs really do visually help tell the story. And the more visual it is, more people understand it faster. And it also feels a lot less like data when it's in a graph. So it gets people used to using it, used to looking at it. And it's much easier to see trends. It's much easier to see all sorts of things. So the graph is not just the pretty picture, it's an actual tool to keep you engaged and keep it useful to you.
Yeah, I mean, and I would agree. I mean, when you have that graph, it paints a picture way more than, 100 rows or 100 columns in Excel. It's like, hey, this is why we're feeling what we're feeling, because this is trending either up or down. And then you can look at where were we at last year. I would tell anybody, if you don't know how to use any of this, we were talking about AI earlier and bright shiny objects, but if you just go to ChatGPT 2 and just say,
Right.
hey, how do I make a pivot table with this data? Or how do I make a pretty looking graph to show me this over this? It'll spit it out within 3 seconds, and then you can take it there, which is pretty cool. So
Right.
a lot of people, like we said, are listeners, they don't love numbers. They love the trade that they're in. They start an electrical company because their electricians are great at it. They love it and they see the value in it. HVAC, plumbing, landscaping, whatever it might be. However, we know that every business owner needs to at least understand the numbers, understand it is their business. So they got to understand it. They've got to own it. How can we help those owners out there begin to become financially savvy and data driven?
Yeah. So honestly, kind of like what we were just talking about, those graphs make it feel less like data. Honestly, if it's less financials, less data-y, and it looks like something that you see, like a lot of people, what is it called? Like an infographic kind of thing. They're very visually appealing for a reason, because when you're scrolling forever on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever you're on, Facebook, and that thing comes up, it's kind of catchy. So I always recommend make something that's somewhat visually appealing, at least. And to your point, AI can help you do that a little bit. Um, and the other thing is, if you're gonna make the jump, just go one step at a time. You don't have to jump the whole canyon yet, right? So we know that you want to be more data driven. Everybody wants to be, but it's damn annoying sometimes. So just take it one step at a time, right? Start with revenue. Easy. We probably know that off the top of our head. You could see how that data kind of flows through. Very easy quality check. And you think, okay, where did that revenue come from? And now we could see that it was however much per door we walked into, right? Per opportunity, to your point earlier, Paul. You can kind of let your brain guide you, just going one step at a time of let's focus on the one big thing. Oh, where did that come from? Oh, I bet this is from that email campaign, or our referrals did this, or whatever it is. Your brain will naturally kind of take you on the journey. As long as the data's there, you can put numbers to that journey.
Yeah, and I love the idea of just starting with revenue because really I think it's, once it's kind of that aha moment, even for me, long, long, long time ago, it's like once you do that thing for the first time, you're like, wow, that was really cool. And now I can actually see what's going on in the business. Now let's try something else. Let's go from revenue to profit or gross profit or marketing or whatever it is. And then we start to paint that picture. And it really does give the business owner that feeling of, wow, I actually really understand the business. Because a lot of times we know something's wrong in our business, but we don't know what it is or what's causing that issue. And when we can start to move into the numbers, at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. So the numbers will tell the story and they remove emotion out of it. So you
Jack?
work with business owners every day, Jack. What's like the biggest mistake or biggest kind of issue you see business owners running into that we can help our listeners avoid?
Biggest thing that people run it into. It's kind of lack of clarity, honestly. And I'm not even it may not be a data driven thing. Obviously, I'm a little biased and I'll skew that way, but a lack of clarity on just sort of the ins and outs, right? So a lot of people, and this is myself included, I've never owned a blue collar business, but I know how I build a dashboard, right? I don't know how my team necessarily builds a dashboard. So, same thing in electrical and plumbing, whatever it is, right? If you've taken that step to become the CEO and no longer the doer of the work, having that insight into, well, how long does it take Jamie to do the work instead of me, right? Having that level of operational knowledge, I think is really important. And it's so standard, it's so ingrained in every day that it often gets overlooked. So, absolutely tie some data to that, tie some metrics to it so you can actually quantify it and see what's happening there. But even if you want to take just an anecdotal look, have that insight into those day-to-day operations. That's what I see a lot of people kind of missing on.
Yeah, and I mean the clarity is huge because most business owners, we wake up every day and we go into like firefighting mode
Yep,
within 10 minutes.
exactly.
And it's just do this, fix this, respond to this. And we're actually not moving the business forward. We're really just kind of keeping it afloat. So we can have that clarity of what's causing all of this and how can we fix it. It'll allow us to, like you said, become the CEO of the organization instead of just the doer. And that's a big transition to go from the doer to then trusting other people to be the doer and then to be the leader. That's a big, big gap. And to your point earlier, we don't have to cross the whole canyon, but we at least got to get started. So kind of wrapping this up, we want our listeners to take action. Ideally, they take action within the next 24 hours. We talked about a lot of different things. What's one thing that anybody out there listening can do within the next day to start moving their business forward and get them closer to where they want to go?
I'm going to say that that one thing is that one metric. So kind of like what we talked about at the beginning, or even if you want to start with revenue, think about, you don't have to find it yet. You don't have to know what the number is yet, but think about what is that one metric that'll give you insight into the rest of your business. For you, it was what revenue per opportunity. For us, it's hourly rate. If you and I, Paul, if we know those things are trending in the right direction, we're in the green zone or whatever you want to call it, everything else kind of falls into place. So take some time, think about what that metric might be, and then your brain will kind of naturally follow. All right, well, how the heck do we track that now?
Love it. Yes. Find that one metric that's important to your business. You probably know what it is because you can feel it when it's not working and you can feel it when it is working. But to Jack's point, I think a lot of it is just taking the time, taking 20, 30 minutes to like sit down, turn your phone off, turn distractions off, close your office door, and really start to think about what's the one thing that if I can see that on a scoreboard, I know we're winning. So Jack Thompson, thanks again for coming on the show, sharing your journey and providing a ton of actionable advice and insight for our blue collar business owners out there to get them more data driven as we continue our journey to prosperity. But before we sign off, where can listeners go to keep in touch with you, learn more about what you do in case they don't want to DIY?
Yeah, well, very much appreciate the time. As always, Paul, always good chatting with you. But our website's probably the best place, pineapplecf.com, as in pineappleconsultingfirm.com. We've got links to our YouTube on there for some DIY type videos. Our LinkedIn is linked on there too. So If you hear this and you want to talk dashboards and nerdy stuff, feel free, give me a shout. I'll help point you in the right direction at the very least. And I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, Jack. Thank you so much. Guys, go there today, pineapplecf.com. Even if you just want to learn more about it, the YouTube videos, there is a ton of value of just starting to think about more of acting as the owner of these numbers versus just kind of being in the business every day. Jack, thanks again for coming on the show today. Really appreciate you.
Appreciate it, Paul.